I'm sure there'll be loads of value no matter what. So what I'll do, Jazz, I'll just finish giving a little bit of an introduction on you. I've started to talk a bit about why I'm excited to chat with you today. With everybody, but I'm going to read off your string of amazing, diverse offers, just to give everyone a bit of an idea of what you do, because I think it's pretty impressive, and I think it's such a cool example of how broad you can kind of make your offerings, but in alignment with what your strengths and passions are. Cool. So, like I was saying, so Jazz worked, I'm going to read it because otherwise I'll miss stuff. So you were at 13 years in the fashion and textile industry before starting to build your art business. And essentially what you've done is taken those skills and applied them to your business in the last 2 years, isn't it? That you've been 3 years? 2 years.
Yeah, 2 or 3 in between, like having 2 babies. Yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty, it's even more impressive.
Maybe 4, I don't know.
But you basically now offer paintings, prints, surface pattern design, seamless patterns, textile design, and mock-up templates for artists. And I know there's a couple of other things in there that I'm not covering, but I just want to give everyone an understanding of the kinds of things that you've started offering and how it's actually allowed you to build something that brings you a variety of revenue streams, which I think ultimately can create, when we're trying to build a business, we're trying to build an income that can sustain our lives so that we can keep doing more of what we want to do. So I think what you've done is really, really awesome and inspirational. And so what I wanted to do today is just let you maybe give us a little bit of a rundown of, like perhaps where you got to in your career, and then what made you kind of take that next transition to build something yourself.
Cool. Okay, great. Have you done your little spiel, your little blah blah? Have we done that already?
Yes.
Did I miss that? Okay, great.
Yes. No. I've given an intro of kind of like, well, that's really the intro I've given about essentially your general background and what you've generally built so far.
Cool. Hi, Kate and Maria. I just saw they jumped on. Okay, so I'm not sure how familiar you guys are with what I do, but one of the main things I do is painting. So painting original paintings and murals. And that's kind of how my whole art business started, was falling into the mural world, as a passion project. And I loved doing it, but I realized so quickly that it wasn't sustainable for me doing a lot of murals. I'm an introvert. I've got a busy family life. And the way I exited fashion was a bit of like, my contract was ending with a local brand called Nine. I was designing for them. And we were talking about negotiating another contract, and it just didn't feel right for me. They kind of wanted to change up what I was doing a little bit. And I just said, hey guys, this is not feeling right. And they're like, okay, so what are you going to do? I was like, I don't know. And they said, well, when are you leaving? I was like, well, my contract ends tomorrow. So tomorrow.
Wow.
So I ended up contracting back to them for surface pattern design, which was, I didn't leave them in the lurch or anything like that, which helped me kind of find my feet of like what I wanted to do. And then I started, painting murals and that sort of thing. But I wanted to be really intentional about creating a business that worked for me, for my personality and my energy levels, knowing that we were looking at starting a family, and we just started trying. And I think the week after I left Nine, I found out I was pregnant with Ivy, my first. So that was a little bit like, oh man, what am I going to do? I don't really feel right going and hunting for a job knowing that, I'm pregnant. I don't want that pressure as well. I wanted to work for myself. So I just basically went freelance textile design because it's what I knew, it's what I liked. And then I added in a little bit of like graphic design and branding because I just really like working with fonts and text and stuff. But quickly began to realize it wasn't what I wanted. So my whole strategy has really been throw it against the wall and see what sticks. But there's a little bit more strategy behind it instead of, you know, that kind of sounds very like.
I do love that though, because I think that's part of being a business owner or entrepreneur. There's something really like awesome about the fact that you can do that. You can try something and see if it works.
Yeah, totally. And I think I was just honest with myself. I'm like, I love ideas. I love trying new things. I like to test and tweak and change. And I'm quite strategic in the way that I think, which is really helpful for like kind of analyzing what's working, what's not. Can be really tough when I'm painting because I enter that editing phase way too quickly. So I have to always kind of pulling that back a bit. But I think that makes me, I've really made this business in a way that works for me and looking at like who I actually am, not getting kind of overwhelmed with what everybody else is doing. I'm like, this is me. This is what I want to do. This makes sense for me. I'm a little bit of a yes girl. Like I just kind of say yes to a lot of things. And, and then if I, you know, don't quite know how to do it, I'll figure it out.
Yeah, but I love that, right? Because you open so many doors by being that way. It's great.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. So it always it often leads me into like a slightly new industry or like a sister industry or other areas of opportunity. So I've just, as time goes on, I just learn to back myself and you know, just keep going. So in terms of the revenue streams in my business, because I get asked about that quite a lot, I love the variety that it gives me. It's like all the different bits of pie that makes up my business. So I've got original paintings and murals. So I do art prints, art licensing for products. So I work with other businesses to license my artwork. So some of it is like the painting side of things, but a lot of it is more the digital surface pattern, textile design from my background. Brand collabs. So I've done a few collabs with the likes of Gordon Harris, Paybeo. I'm doing one at the moment. Cricut, the like cutting machine thing. Sorry, I should like pitch that properly.
You're working on it. You got time.
And like, so yeah, the social media partnerships is awesome. I'm really, I try and pick who I already use or who I'm already like products I'm already using that aligns well. So that can be kind of tough, but that's important. And then I've got this new part of my business, which I've been doing just this year. I literally started my Etsy shop in April, and I was playing around with AI, and I know it's a little bit controversial. Some people absolutely hate it, and that's totally cool. I'm very much of the mindset, whereas I'm like, everybody else is going to be utilizing it. I want to get on board, and I don't want to get left behind. So that's kind of, that's where I'm at. So I started making mock-ups, which I was already purchasing off people anyway online. So I started making these AI mock-ups for my artwork so that I had beautiful interior imagery that was picking up tones and things in my paintings that I was working on, and I could really like nail down what I wanted. And I just fell in love with the process, and then I was posting them on Instagram, and everyone was like, where are you getting these amazing images from? So I just decided to open an Etsy store. I'm just gonna chuck my, like, do a little recording of this. Sorry. This is what I hate about live. It's like, oh, I'm just gonna do this.
No, do it. It's great. You're gonna take the moment. Everyone here is enjoying a lunchtime conversation. It's nice to know that. That's how it should be.
Yeah, I love it. So I just decided to do the Etsy store. It wasn't just decided. I researched all the platforms and found the best one for what I was doing. And it just really like cracked off, and I was like, okay, this is cool. This is a thing. And I just got a lot of people saying, I love what you're doing. I love the style that you've got going on. And I think it's because I come from, I'm looking at it like an artist. I'm creating these things as an artist, which is really helpful for, you know, fellow creatives, artists, photographers, illustrators, because they're like, you get it. You get what I need instead of some person just creating interiors. So I just keep responding to what people are asking for. I'll get messages all the time, and can you do something with this kind of background or whatever? So I've had to outsource it a little bit. I was getting overwhelmed with all the photoshopping. So I've ended up getting a guy to help me with Photoshop, which is awesome. Super helpful.
Well, so and then I just before you move on, I love what you said then, because I think you just highlighted something that I think a lot of artists don't get into this mindset because we don't see ourselves as business people. But you said, I respond to what people need. And I think that's like in essence, and yes, it's a bit different when we're talking specifically about art in the sense that we are intuitively creating. But I think when it comes to actually the products or the things that we're selling, like people who are really good at building businesses, even if you are an artist, respond to people's thoughts and requests and what they're asking for and what they're needing. And that's how you start to find a way to create solutions for people, which is what you're doing.
100%. And I think I've got such a strong commercial background. Like my first job was at Pumpkin Patch, and we were continually taught, you know, we create our next season based off our best sellers. And so that's just been drilled into me. And I've kind of made peace with, like, I do have a commercial background, and I'm not, you know, the ethereal artist. That's just not me. And I think there was a hang up that I had for quite some time. And I'm just like, I just need to go with who I am.
Yes.
Yeah. So
I love that though, because you said that earlier on. You were like, I've built my business in a way that feels good for me and my personality and my life. And I'm not focusing on everybody else. And I think it's really hard, especially in the art world, because there's kind of there is a bit of an ego around it in the sense of how, you know, you're a pure painter, you're a pure expressionist. And there's a feeling, I think, when you enter that space of being like, well, I have to be that to have any kind of success. But I think with the world the way it is now, and, you know, us all talking together right now is an example of it. Like, people can be listening to this in America or doing whatever. Like, you've got this ability to do what you want in a way that feels good for you without, if you allow it, I guess is the thing, isn't it? If you allow yourself to do it.
Totally. Yeah, I think so. But it's also just I think when you let go of that, it's a big like, oh, I don't have to like wear this jacket that's actually somebody else's, you know?
Yeah. It's like the expectation you put on yourself. You just let that.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
Yeah, no, I love that. So I guess, what do you think of that? Because a lot of people, we're listening to what you do and going, and of course, you're probably an extreme version in the sense that you have a lot of different skills, and you've kind of created all these areas that work with those skills. But even if we're kind of talking about a sense of having 2 or 3 different things that bring in bring money in. What do you think are the pros and cons of creating different revenue streams or different things that you're offering, I guess is the key thing. When I talk about revenue streams for everyone watching, we're talking about ways to make money, essentially doing, in your business. So what do you think are the pros and cons? Like if you look at your business now, what feels like I'm so stoked with this, and then what feels like, oh, some days I wish I wasn't doing it, because we all have those days, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I think some days, I'll start with the negative. Some days it feels really overwhelming. Like I've created this massive beast and I'm constantly switching hats. That's really tough. And I've made this, like, this is my responsibility, like, but I think on the plus side is that when one area of my business is kind of a little bit soft, it usually means that another area of my business is doing really well. So, and it's honestly, it's a lot of it is like where I'm focusing my energy. If I'm, if I really look at it, this is what I'm promoting, this is what's going on social media, or my email marketing, that's what's performing well. So yeah, I think I honestly, I go with what feels good, what is bringing, what's bringing in income. I have this thing in my business where I think about my values and what makes sense to me. And so whenever I'm making a decision around pretty much anything, it has to hit 3, the whole Venn diagram thing, the 3 circles. It has to hit 2 of those points to be, something that I will pursue. So the 3 points for me are real, revenue, and relationship. So the real part is it creative? Does it excite me? Is it fun? Am I passionate about it? Revenue is it going to make me money? And then the relationship side is, what will it do for the community? Is it building, relationship with, my Instagram following or my current client base, all that kind of stuff. So it's got to hit 2 of those. And if it hits 3, then that's a no-brainer. But that's been a really good guide for me. And by all means, use the same structure. Think about your own values and make them make sense for you. That's really helpful. But I think that's essentially how I'm assessing what's working for me and what's not. Because it's
I love that.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful, and it's quite easy to make snap decisions based on that framework as well.
And I really like that, because I guess in essence we perhaps all go through some kind of thought process like that, but I think I love how you simplified it, because really you're looking at the core things that really matter to you at any given time, and then you're going, right, if 2 are ticked off, it's probably a yes. And it's a lot easier than just sitting procrastinating, going, should I, shouldn't I? Because I think that's half the problem. We often spend so much time thinking about whether we should do something. And then, and that's why a lot of people don't do anything, I think, is because it's this stalemate within your
paralysis.
Yeah, exactly. Great paralysis. For sure.
Totally. So yeah,
I love that answer. That's really good.
So like I'll have a new idea, and I do like trying things. So I'll introduce one thing at a time. Like this is not, I didn't start out with like, oh, I want 8 or 9 revenue streams. I'm going to work at them all together. Like that's mayhem. So I started with my surface pattern design and already had a client base and contracts. So, and then I added in branding. Okay, that wasn't working for me. Let's add in mural painting. And I just, once I got the hang of something, then I'll bring it in something else if I want to. But yeah, it's hard. Like I have too many ideas.
That's the artist's, like, what's the word, curse, if you will, isn't it? It's the creative's curse. We want to do, because I talk about this a lot with the ladies and guys in my membership, is that it's really tempting when you're just kind of having a creative moment in the week to be like, I'm just going to do that for a day. And then you kind of move all the way over to this other thing that actually, and then really what you should have been is just try to focus to finish or complete something or move to the, and then allow yourself to go to the next thing. But I think if you can create, I think what you've said there, and I think for everyone listening, you don't have to have 7, 8, or 9 revenue streams to be successful. But I think the point is you can have those to be successful if you want, but the success of all of them will be dependent on the focus and time and energy you put into them, which is what you've said, right? And I feel this too, alongside my art and my coaching. And I do go through phases where I have to go, right, this is priority this month with this focus. Yeah. And I'm then able to really make something work, and then I kind of move in between. But I think also you mentioned earlier, there's something really nice about having a little bit of diversity, not only for income, but for keeping, like, mixing things up, like keeping things fresh.
Yeah, totally. And in all honesty, a lot of my days I'm like, what do I actually feel like doing? And for so long I pushed against that. And there's some days where I'm like, I just feel so flat. I just want to like sit on the couch and work from a laptop. And those are the days that I'm like, okay, this is not what I had planned, but I'm going to just sit here on Photoshop and work on my, Etsy shop today. And that's what I'm doing. So I think just having a bit of space for that as well, flexibility I really like that. I try as much as I can to time block, but some days it just doesn't happen.
No, I completely agree. I think that has to be the beauty of working for yourself, that element of it, right? Because when you're working for a company and you got to go to work and you got to perform and deliver things, you don't have the, flexibility or the ability to just go, you know what, I actually have nothing to give to that right now, which I think is obviously one of the best things about working for yourself, that you've got the ability to go, what feels good, what's intuitively right for me. And if that's to have a nap, you have a nap.
Exactly. And as we've both got young kids.
Yeah, exactly. You want to be able to have a sleep.
Yeah, totally. And you know what? I'm more productive if I have a half hour, an hour kip in the middle of the day. I know that my, 2 or 3 hours in the afternoon is going to be so much more productive than if I just try and slog it out. And it's the same thing with, like, if I don't feel inspired creatively, I'm just too tired or too bogged down or too stressed out. I'm like, I'm not going to just focus on like painting or whatever right now, because I know that when I am in that flow that I could do, 2 or 3 paintings in a day versus, it takes me 3 months to do one,
Yeah, because I think that's the old way of, if you think about the way we've all been brought up. So like you go to school, you have a job and you just do what you have to do for a certain period of time and you do it. But there's no, like you say, you could probably, if everyone had the ability to perhaps reflect on how they're feeling at any given time and roll with that, you could work half the hours and get the same amount done and feel a lot more rested, which, if you are actually managing a business well and feeling, allowing yourself to feel you can do that.
Yeah, totally. I'll let you know when I get there.
Oh yeah, I don't know anyone who says that they get there every week. I think you have some weeks where you're like, it's all working really well and I'm feeling good, and then the next 2 weeks are like, oh good Lord, I'm in.
Oh yeah.
How have I got here? No, I love it. I think you've kind of hit the nail on the head on why things, if you can start to build something that gives you flexibility options and different opportunities, why overall it's really beneficial. So just generally, I want to talk to you a bit about licensing, because this is something a lot of people ask me about, and I've kind of worked with different businesses collaboratively in different ways than perhaps you have, and I think some of your work is really quite inspiring and awesome to see. You've done collaborations with people like Kathmandu. I know you do some work with John Sands and a variety of other companies. So I guess what would be awesome is if we're thinking really in really simple terms, and I know a lot of the people I coach get asked about things like a business or friend will come to them and say, I'd love you to use this image for my business card of yours. What's it going to cost me? Or how does that work? Or I'd love to put your painting on my packaging. How does that work? So do you have any advice for people who are getting some of those, perhaps, you know, earlier opportunities? And what should they be thinking about? What should they be asking? Cool.
Okay. Awesome. First of all, awesome. If you're getting approached already for that kind of stuff, like that's such a boost, and you should feel really proud of yourself that people are already asking you for that. Because it's a really nice indication that your work is great for art licensing. And I guess going right back to the beginning of things, like be encouraged that you know, Instagram will be working for you. Like both John Sands and Kathmandu approached me after seeing my work on Instagram. And yes, you might see my 17K following on Instagram and think, oh, it's just because of that. Both of them I had, I think John Sands was like maybe less than 3K. Kathmandu was maybe 4 or 5K when they approached me. So like it's not about the numbers, it's about the quality of your work. So please be encouraged. There's so much more than just those numbers on Instagram. So don't follow that vanity metric at all. And I've had other collabs come about where I've seen them on Instagram and I really like their work and it makes me excited. So I'll approach them and just say, hey, I really like your work. Like it can literally just be a direct message. Say, I really love your brand. If you're interested in like collabs or like, I'd love to do some art for you or something like that. You know, are you interested? Is this something that you do? That sort of thing. And just start the conversation. And so I guess that's more like how to do it. Or like how to get started if you're not already getting approached. And just make sure they kind of fit with your aesthetic as well. Same thing if you're getting approached and someone's asking you, hey, can I put your artwork on stuff? Things you want to consider initially before even taking it on are like, does it fit with your vibe? And, you know, have they done it before? Have they, like a great question, honestly, is to ask them, like, what's their rate? Because sometimes it can be a bit stressful. Do we cut out? I see the loading circle. Hopefully we didn't cut out.
I've still got you. You've got a bit static, but I think we're still going.
Can you still hear me?
I can still hear you. Yeah.
Oh, don't you love technology?
Yeah, I know. I can still hear you perfectly. So maybe it's just struggling to pick up your video. It will probably catch up in a sec. Okay. Hang on, let me just check. I think it's still streaming through the group. Let's just check. I'll go to Facebook. Oh, there we go. I'm pretty sure we're still good. Oh, she's gone. Anybody on the call on Facebook, can you just let me know? Yeah, okay, cool. So we're still here. Jazz just might be having some issues with her. And we'll give her just a second. So I guess just to summarize what Jazz was saying there, I think there's some really good points. Oh, here she is. There's some really good points already around don't worry about having loads of followers to get opportunities. And not only can you wait for people to approach you, you don't have to wait for people to approach you. You can approach other people that you think really fit with your art. So I think that's they're really great points to start. Hello. Are you all good?
Hi. Sorry.
That's all
I
right.
had to sort out the Wi-Fi.
Oh, don't worry. We've all been there. We've all been there. So you finished up they're saying, asking them what their rate is. So are you saying in this situation, if you're kind of, and I guess, you know, you're potentially talking about some bigger companies, bigger brands that might have kind of things set up to go, this is what we pay artists in these scenarios. What would be the other scenario for you in the sense of a small one-man band or small company? How would you kind of have those conversations?
Gotcha. Okay. So, you know, everyone loves talking about pricing.
Yeah. It's the worst, really, isn't it?
Yeah. So I'll give you kind of like an overview of like all the moving parts with art licensing, and then I'll like lay out like a suggested like kind of like basic license, middle tier license, and then like a, you know, a Mac Daddy license for, you know, like your Kathmandu. I was going to say Mac.
Yeah. Maybe one day. I love it. Yeah, I thought that would be amazing. That would be amazing to hear it broken down like that.
Yeah, cool. Okay. So I guess the nuts and bolts of art licensing, pricing really varies quite a lot. So it's quite hard to put like a firm price on it. So essentially it varies on the complexity of your artwork and how experienced you are, and honestly the perceived value of your brand. What I would, if Kathmandu approached me tomorrow, I would charge much higher than what I did. You know, this is 3 years ago now that I did that collab, like initially. So you gotta keep all that in mind. Yes. And then there's a few other aspects that come into it, is the location, the location of where their products are being sold. So if it's like New Zealand, Australasia, like just the US, or, you know, or if it's global, all those have an impact on your price. So just think like the bigger the reach, the bigger the price tag, essentially. And then I really like to factor in the size of the business. If it's a small business or just like a solo business owner, I'm not going to charge what I charge Kathmandu. Like that's, you know, that's crazy. So I have, you know, I will totally keep that in mind if I'm working with a small business. And then the other facet is the license. So non-exclusive, kind of exclusive to a certain product, or completely exclusive. So what that means, non-exclusive is basically, yes, you can use my artwork, but I can also sell it to anybody else. And I, you know, you retain, for every license, always retain the copyright. Your artwork is yours, and it should stay yours. And then your exclusive based on category, which is most of what I do now. So a category means like kids wear, women's wear, apparel, like homeware, so like cushions, soft furnishings, that sort of thing. And then like greeting cards. So, you know, what that means in like practical sense is that I've had the same artwork licensed to John Sands, and I've literally got the same artwork without the like Christmas doodah on that I've licensed to a different company on a cushion, because it's completely it's a different thing, right? So that's what the whole category thing means. And then the big pricing, the premium pricing is like exclusive. So for example, Kathmandu obviously wanted exclusive rights. They don't want anybody else to have their print on any products. So it's kind of like a one-time deal, right? Like you can't use their artwork for anything else. So of course that demands a higher price. So I'll outline like the basic license now, and then I'll go through, you know, the different tiers. So my basic license is perfect for like small businesses or like solo people. It's a non-exclusive license, so as I mentioned, I can license it to other categories. For me, I try and keep it separate. I'm not going to use it with a competitor because I don't like what that says about me. So say a plumber wanted to use my artwork on their business card, I'm not going to go and license it to another plumber, you know, for their business card in a different colorway. Like that just, it doesn't make sense, right?
And that's your morals around your business too, right? And I think that helps you. That's you and your brand and what you'll become known for as somebody who, you know, I think it's really important to build a business around what means something to you rather than a lot of people will build a business around just money. And so what you're highlighting is that, well, actually, I want to have both like recognized, even though I'm making 100%. Money like lines.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
So the basic license is usually like local, but I'll just do New Zealand. That's a New Zealand license. Price-wise, anywhere from like, if you're starting out and it's an artwork that all you have to do is like, say it's an original painting that you need to get scanned in, and then you just send them the file, I don't know, maybe like 200 New Zealand dollars. You could go less if you wanted to, but you know, anywhere between 200 and 500 per design. So like, say I've done some work for, you know, the cloth nappies.
Yes.
Maybe they'll, you know, approach you and they're like, oh, I really love your style. I want 10 designs. I'm not going to charge 200 per design. I would give them a discount because they're, you know, buying a lot of designs. So yeah, the things you essentially just want to like constrain it as much as you can. You can limit it to certain products. Say there's a max of like 200 units or 200 pieces. That's a really kind of helpful guide. And then the duration is usually 1 year.
I was going to say duration. That's an interesting one, right? Because I guess you also want your art fresh and your work, you know, constantly being recycled. Not recycled, you know, new stuff being put out there.
Yeah, totally. And that's usually pretty helpful for how long people want it for, you know, before they'll start releasing something else or whatever. If they do want to extend it, and I've had this with John Sands a couple of times, they'll pay for another license. So it's usually like a little bit less than your initial fee. Because it's literally, there's no more work involved for you. So if it can roll over, then that's really, really great. And then, so the like middle tier that is like kind of like a standard license, it's better for kind of medium-sized businesses. I always make it exclusive to the category. So again, I won't license it to any competitors. Unless they're like in a different region, like I would license something to someone here in New Zealand, but if you know, depending on who it was or the circumstance, maybe I would license it to somebody in Europe in a different colorway or something like that. So there's so much to licensing. So I hope you guys are getting this.
Well, I guess there's lots of nuances, right? Like every opportunity you get will have a different combination of all of these things that you're touching on, right? Totally. So I think what you're doing is great in the sense that you're giving a general idea, which is awesome.
Yeah. So
if anyone has any questions as Jazz goes, sorry, Jazz, if anyone has any questions, just put them in the chat and I'll ask them to Jazz after. Yeah. Sorry, carry on.
No, you're good. You're good. So pricing wise, kind of sitting like 500 to, I don't know, anywhere from 1500 if it's something like super complex and they're using it for like, you know, this is like the hero of their brand, then I would kind of price it quite high. Again, duration, a year. And then I often, it's kind of got expanded usage rights, so they could use it for maybe a couple of different products, and like for their marketing, that sort of thing. And then
just for an example, if say somebody wanted it for their logo, what you could do is say, you're a medium business, I'm going to charge you $700 a year, and then if you continue it, it will be $500 a year thereafter that. Is that kind of the kind of thing? Yeah.
Yeah, you can relicense it if you want to. That's a good way to kind of help businesses if they're like, oh, I'm really tight for money right now, but I really want, your work. Then you can do it that way. Another way is royalties. So this is kind of like a quarterly, you get paid quarterly based on the product sales. So an example of this is I licensed some of my artwork to a company who has it like printed on like canvases, frame canvases. And I get royalties. I get told, every quarter, this is how much you've earned. Can you please invoice us? And that's really nice for recurring revenue. I really like that structure. But it also offsets the cash flow for them. So it's kind of like helpful for both parties.
Yeah, love that.
Yeah. And then the Mac Daddy big kahuna. This is more for like, bigger companies, not like as big as Kathmandu, but just, established companies that want exclusive rights to this print. I usually just give them global rights because it's quite hard to control now with social media, all that kind of stuff of where things are going. And then pricing, it depends. If it's like a super basic design that I've like done in Illustrator or whatever, and it's like only got 2 colors, and it might be say 1,500 New Zealand, up to something like super complex, like what I did with Kathmandu. It's got multiple, like I've got like a hero print, and then I've got like t-shirt prints, which are derivatives of that. And then they want like, I think they wanted like a 2 or 3 year license, global, and then they wanted to also have the rights to make derivatives of, so they wanted my actual physical AI file as well. So if they want all that, honestly, you could go up to 10K plus if you wanted to, which, that's great. Like I had a package which was near that level, which was awesome.
And I think it's important to remember these companies have these budgets for this stuff, right?
Yeah,
we kind of go, oh God, that's a lot of money. But like you said earlier, different companies are allocating much, as you grow, you allocate a lot more money to all sorts of things because the money you put in brings you back such a big return based on what you're selling.
Yep, totally. So, and as you start building your Instagram and that sort of things, you can bring that into the package. Like that's part of what I offer now is like, along with your print, I will also do a couple of social media posts for you, and I will, give you content of like how I'm creating it, and I will send you that, those videos and all that kind of stuff. Like all of that becomes part of what you're selling. Which is really helpful. And I mean, you don't need a following to do that. Like to be able to provide that kind of content of the behind the scenes is so valuable.
Yeah, it's true. People are constantly, they pay people to do reels and content for them on social media. So if you're adding that and allowing people, that to be done for you, it's value, right?
Yep, absolutely. So, and if you want, you can, other ways you could add value is like, if you want multiple designs, then I'll give you a discount, or, like send me some of the product and I'll take some imagery in it, because people love that. They love to see the people behind the brand or behind the design, that sort of thing. So, that's always fun as well. I generally try and get them to send me product as well, because it's such a kick having, your work on product and you see it in the flesh. So,
Well, you talk about it, right? When people see you, it's great advertising. It's so good.
Oh, it's amazing.
Meant for you.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I've got a question from Kath. She's asked, what exactly does global rights mean? Is it just that they can use it around the world, or is there more to it than that?
Yeah, basically like where they're selling. So if they're selling, an apparel brand, so it's a fashion brand, and they're worldwide, and like Kathmandu, they sell in Australia and New Zealand. They also sell in Europe, and I think maybe the US, I can't remember. So they needed to have those rights to be global and where they're selling their product. So they couldn't have any limitations around where they can sell their product. Yeah. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, I think that yeah. Kath, let us know if you have any other questions. I think that sounds like a great answer. I really love the fact that you've just described like opportunities that you have, you know, whether they're a small company or a big company like Kathmandu, but what you're showing is you've got an opportunity to make, you know, let's say in a really good deal, in the tens of thousands of dollars with a piece or a few pieces of your art, while still creating beautiful original works that you can sell for thousands of dollars as well.
Totally.
And I really want to highlight that because I think there's this feeling that like, oh, you can't do both. You've got to be one or the other, otherwise you lose that and you can't do that. And it's not true.
Yeah.
It's
no.
You can do both.
This one piece of artwork has made me over 10K. And it's still making me money.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, obviously, did you do that? Is that something that's handmade or digitally made? What's that image?
In terms of the process, I hand drew all the elements. Then I pulled it through to Illustrator and then did the layout. So it was, you know, and played with all the colors and that sort of thing. But yeah, I think that's a great indication of like you can make great money from your art.
Yeah. And I think you just, because a lot of people will be going, oh, I can't do something like that online. I'm only good at drawing, or, you know, I'm not good at that tech stuff. But I think it's important to realize you don't have to do it all on your own, right? Like you could be creating really beautiful pieces of art that could be perfect. I mean, you just showed something quite different to the thing on, you know, the back of your wall, and you can see how it really suits that card. So everyone's probably creating different things that could really suit a cushion or a card or a raincoat. And even though you might be stuck with some elements of, well, I can't do the Illustrator bit, there are so many people out there who could sit with you for an hour and charge you an hour of their time and do the Illustrator bit so you can earn the 10K. So
and even the companies, some of the companies will, you know, it's often just an added bonus that I can do it. Often they'll be like, hey, can you hand off your AI files and then we'll get our in-house graphic artist to finish off or like refine the colors or whatever. And that's up to you. If you want the full control of your files, then that's fine. But for 10K, I'm like, here, have my entire laptop if you want it, you know. No, I'm kidding.
You know, if you have, you know, a variety of things like that going on with different companies, you all of a sudden have a sustainable business. And I think this is the thing that everyone's constantly trying to figure out as an artist. How do I make money, enough money to quit my part-time job or, you know, to make 50 grand a year that covers me? Well, these kinds of things make it much easier than going, how do I sell 500 pieces of, you know, very small ticket items? You know, you can find, you know, 10 clients that can help you get a long way there.
And this is the thing. I don't hold any stock. I don't have to deal with shipping. I don't have to deal with any of that. I just get the glory of seeing my work on a product and, you know, talking about the collab on social media. And I don't have to do any of the parts I don't like doing. And for me, that's why I love art licensing so much. is, you know, I don't have to deal with the nitty-gritty. I don't have to pack anything, all that kind of stuff is, you know, it's beautiful. I love it. I mean, sure, if you like folding cards, go for gold.
Yeah. And I think this is the thing, right? Like, I think I've been really trying to encourage a lot of people, you know, a lot of the amazing artists who many are in this call right now, to think a bit bigger. You know, it's like you're thinking about, oh, I'll sell some packs of cards. And it's often this feeling of like, well, it's a cheap product, so I can sell those. But what we're not realizing is there's a lot of people out there, a lot of businesses out there that will pay you a lot more money just to take the image of that to create their own pack of cards. And that is a lot better use of time. It's really just about perhaps backing yourself, right? And maybe approaching some, like, would you recommend, if some people are out there going right now, I think my work is actually perfect for a greeting card. What do you think? Like, is it worth them dropping an email to someone like John Sands? Is that how bold you can go?
100%, totally. Yeah. Like, I don't know what the ratio is of like being approached versus approaching, but like, what have you got to lose? Like, just ask. I think that's the biggest thing, is like, some of these businesses, like, they don't have the time to be trawling Instagram and like that kind of stuff. Whereas if you're like, hey, I've got this, I'm an artist, I've got this art, and I think it would really suit your product or whatever. You know, is this something that you're interested in? I'm an artist, I'd love to do a collab, you know, we could, you know, make a big thing of it. And I think people would be really, they are really receptive to it, because I've done it, to have somebody like, you know, in your lap saying, hey, I would love to create some beautiful work for you. They'll be like, well, heck yes, let's do it. And they want, you know, they want to hear from you. So 100%, like, either, I think in the last 6 months, things have changed a little bit. I've found I'm getting more positive reception to like an email, with a link to like my website and Instagram, versus I used to do a lot in Instagram direct messages, but I think they're getting lost, and a lot of the bigger companies are using like, you know, social media managers or whatever now. So if you can, email or jump on LinkedIn as well is really helpful. But if you can, like, you're saving them time by approaching them. So I think if you adjust that kind of mindset, of like, they want to work with you, go for gold. Yeah,
I think it's that fear of being rejected, right, that we all have. And I think, like you say, well, what have you got to lose? Well, at this point in time, you're just not making the call that they have no idea that you're thinking about making. But the potential win for you is so great. And even if it is a no, how many other companies are out there? Like, it's
totally
never ending so far as where that kind of thing could take you. So I love that mindset, because I think too few people will do that. Not many people are willing to pick up the phone or email directly somebody and go, I think my work's perfect for you. Let me know what you think. Here's some information. You'll be one of the few who are doing that, right?
Yeah, because so many people are thinking that same thing, like, oh, that's too scary. I definitely think that there's so much opportunity out there. And don't send just one email and, you know, wait and freak out. Like, send, I don't know, 5 or 10 or whatever. And then you might get one yes back, and that's okay. And I've done that. I've done that when I'm pitching to galleries. I've had no's, and that's okay. Doesn't mean that your work's average. It means that it's not the right time, or they're too full, or there's things going on that it's not about you. It's not about the quality of your work. It's like, they don't have the capacity right now. So I think you kind of got to, like, just ask. I mean, if you, don't ask.
Well, we all get no's, right? Like, if you're not getting any no's, I always think you're not asking enough. You know, you have to, if you're not going to get yeses to everything, because it's not going to be right. But no's are a good thing, because you're you've tried something that day. It's not a failure. You've just been redirected in some way. A few more questions. Kath has asked, is there any companies you recommend approaching?
It so depends on what your work is like. Yeah, it depends what your work is like, what you're offering, what their products are. Like, it's so hard. Yeah, by all means, approach John Sands if you've got really commercial work that is perfect for greeting cards, but like, that's not going to be applicable for a fashion brand or whatever. I would just hit some brands up that you like, or like jump on Instagram and like have a look. You know, it's really hard. Like, I wish I could say, yes, approach this brand XYZ.
Well, like you say, it's kind of like, I guess you could compare it if you're thinking about, well, should I approach a gallery with my paintings? Well, if this gallery sounds abstract and you do birds, you know, it's probably not going to be a fit. It's probably thinking of it like that, right? Like, what are they selling? What's their look and feel? And does my art fit that look and feel? Yeah,
totally. I think so. I think you just got to do the research and have a look. If I had a big list of, you know, people, I would totally give it to you. But yeah, just hunt. Instagram is probably the best place for it.
Yeah, okay. And the other question is this time of year good or bad to be emailing this type of thing, so requests or inquiries to companies?
Great question. I would shelve it until the end of January, honestly.
I agree,
Everyone's just doing work dues and trying to wrap up stuff, and nobody's thinking about it at the moment. They're like, too hard basket. The amount of emails that I've had that are like, can you just get back to me in like Feb or March? I'm like, okay, cool. But great question. Yeah, really good kind of thinking about where they're at the moment. It's great.
Yeah, it's an important one, that, because I think it's always good to reflect on, like, well, how hectic is my life right now? And in December, everyone's life is, like you say, no matter what you're doing, you're desperately trying to get a break. You're trying to get on holiday. So
and follow up as well. That's the big thing, is like follow up. And like, if you've had any expression of interest to, your first email, follow up. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, because often we just assume that they've gone no, but they might have gone, oh, interesting, I'll get back to that.
I've forgotten about you. Yeah,
exactly.
I'm terrible on emails, so like, I just, I know what I'm like. But if I've got someone that's pestering me, I'm like, oh yeah, thanks. Like, I'm keen, but I've got so much going on. Yeah.
I love that. I think that was an amazing overview. I've certainly learned something, and I'm sure everyone has on the call. So that was awesome. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. The other thing I just wanted to, actually, and while we're talking about this, do you want to share a bit about the course that you have got in the making?
Yes, cool. So I actually talked about art licensing on Monique Story's podcast. She's an artist from Sydney, and we decided that it would be really cool to do like a course collab, because she's really strong on the marketing side, and I've got my art licensing, and I get asked about this all the time. So if you're interested in the course, we are building it at the moment. I don't have a release date or anything. It will be next year. But if you're interested, you can jump on the waitlist. I will put the link in down below. So yeah, feel free if you want to jump on that waitlist. I would love to help you if you want to know more.
Yeah, definitely put that in, Jazz. And what I'll also do is I'll send out an email to my list of people who perhaps won't see this till later, and I'll make sure that they have the ability to get that link through the email as well.
Okay, cool.
I just quickly as well, I just wanted to touch on something you mentioned earlier, because I think this is specifically really useful to the artists in this group, is your mock-ups, because I'm using them and I love them, and a lot of people are already asking me, where are you getting these from?
Yeah.
So I just wanted to quickly, I guess, briefly touch base about what you're offering and where people can find them, just to have a look.
Yep. So I've got some freebies for you if you want some freebies just to test them out and to have a look. And you're welcome, more than welcome to like throw them all over your website and social media and all that kind of stuff. So again, I'll put the link into that.
Cool.
I sell them on my website. I'm in the middle of like loading them all onto my website as well. So you can find them at jasminecruise.com. And then you'll find the mock-ups under the Duda hamburger menu situation. Otherwise, I will link my Etsy shop as well, which has like my full range. So there's like a couple of ways you can use them. I've got PSD files, which are like the frames are like in there and you can't like move them around or anything, but you just I've got all the how-tos, all that kind of stuff is all in there, like how to mock up your work. And then the other way, if you're a little bit more handy with Photoshop and you want a bit more flexibility, I've got like blank wall, like in situ backgrounds, and then you can kind of like copy and paste your own frames or use the frames I've got to kind of like build your own like scene, I guess. Which is generally what I do, because I like that, having that flexibility of like I've got one background and I can use it for a lot of different pieces of my work. But it depends how you want to go about doing it. But if you're just starting out, like the PSD ones that are all like done for you, you just like double click, save it, you've mocked up your work in like a minute or two. Like it's amazing.
Yeah, no, they're beautifully done, like you said earlier. Like you've made them coming from an artist perspective, and I think that's why your range has got so many nice options in there. That I've bought a few myself, so that's amazing. Thank you so much. We'll put the freebie link up as well, and I'll put that into the email. And just on that note, Jazz also came on and did a module within my new print course, which is being released next week after 6 months. I'm very excited to share that with you all now. So Jazz actually joins me for kind of a half-hour module where you actually go through the process. Even though if you do purchase one of these, there is a little tutorial. But we go through that process together, and you are also very kind to offer a percentage off purchases for people who do sign up to the course. But I just wanted to throw that in there because I will throw the information up about the course as well. And if you haven't already downloaded or received my free 18-page guide about making prints, that's something that you can also get if you're not sure the course is quite right for you and you haven't had that download yet. I will also put that link in. So getting a lot of good stuff today from courtesy from Jazz in particular. So thank you so much. I love talking to you because I get super inspired and I'm like, I love
it. Same, Lucy.
So good. All the ideas. But yes, we'll get all that info to everybody who's watching now or later and make sure everyone can make the most of all those awesome.
Cool. And if you've got any questions, honestly, just hit me up on Instagram. I'm happy to chat and talk you through stuff as well.
Amazing.
Like, I'll probably send you lots of voice messages because I'm that kind of person.
I know. I love voice messages. It's a way to do things. It's a great time saver.
Totally. Cool. All right.
Thanks,
Lucy.
Thank you so much.
See you, buddy. I'm so glad we got there in the end.
We did. We got there. All right. Have a great day.
Cool.
Thanks everyone for joining. We'll see you soon. Bye.